It's greater than anything. Greater than my mistakes. Given never to be taken away.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry, Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett, Westbrook, and Mr. DUMAS.
And good evening and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host. Certainly happy you could join us this evening. I've got a special guest joining us today along with Maria Bryant, one of the officers from NAACP. But before I introduce our new guest and before we get into some of the information that Maria is going to share with you, I just want to touch bases on this past weekend. We had a jam-packed weekend this weekend, a lot going on here in the city of Macon, even going on in my life personally. I know that the NAACP had the opportunity to register people at the Anthony Hamilton concert, and Sister Maria, you had an opportunity to do that along with President Westbrooks. I'm sure y'all had a good turnout over there.
We did. We gave out a lot of information. We talked to a lot of people about the voting. We gave out cards with all of the candidates' pictures on there. So we was encouraging people, when you go out and vote, make sure you vote make sure you vote the entire ballot. Don't just vote, start at the top. A lot of people start at the top too and then forget the rest of them. But you need to vote the entire ballot. But we had a good time at the concert. There were a lot of people there. We talked to a lot of people. We actually registered some folks to vote and everything. So it was, all in all, it was a good weekend. And, we were at some of the high schools registering young people to vote. So it was a good weekend for us.
Wow. Despite all the turbulence activity that was happening in Florida and also in South Carolina, we do send out our condolences and prayers to those individuals who lost loved ones during the hurricane there in Florida as well as in South Carolina. We do know that looking at the weekend, nobody really thought we'd have the type of weather that we ended up having. We had some beautiful weather on yesterday as well as Saturday here in the mid-state. And so a lot of surprises in that area. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the event that my grandson, we were congratulating him on a signing as a producer. He's only 13 years of age. And of course, we were very excited to see him doing something positive in his life at a very early age. We had an opportunity to have the mayor to speak along with the commissioners and the DA. And we'd like to thank them for their attendance and thank them for their input in giving him a proclamation on Saturday as Avery Brown. Congratulations to Avery Brown Day. And so we really thank them for their attendance, and we thank everyone that was involved in making that a success. Also, for our Wildcat fans, the Fort Valley State University Wildcats, they celebrated a homecoming celebration this weekend as well. That's my alma mater, of course, and I didn't get an opportunity to attend this Saturday simply because of the celebration for my grandson. But I'm always supporting the Wildcat Nation, and I don't know if our guest here attended Fort Valley, but if you did, well, shame on you. Shame on you, but sending a shout out to all those Wildcats out there, and hope you had a great homecoming. Even though we lost the game, I understand we still, put in a good effort. So we had a great weekend. So let's get down to the business at hand today. We've got a special guest in the form of Miss Diane Knox Cooper, who's an author, and she has a book entitled "Hated without a cause, hated without a cause. You know, all across America, and even here locally, the climate of hatred. We're very familiar with that. The post-election, we had a lot of different things, and a lot of different hate groups that were forming out there and uh, spewing their venom across the airways and social media. And so today, I hope that this book will also help us better understand how to deal with hatred. I think the um, only cure against hatred is love, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and so, Ms. Knox, go ahead and tell us, Ms. Knox Cooper, tell us about your book, what inspired you to write it, and why you wrote it, and just how much of an inspiration this book has been to others.
Um, I can say the inspiration for me to write started right after the death of my grandmother.
Wow.
And after she passed, I just started, in order to get over the grief, I started writing about the week leading up to her death.
Wow.
So I could remember very intricate details about it. And I was surprised that I remembered every day. I knew everything that happened almost every day. And I said, man, I probably can do this with my life. So I was
Wow.
sitting at work one day and I started doing an outline of events that happened in my life. And I thought, you know what? I can write a book
Wow.
about this. And so that was my inspiration to
Now,
start writing.
writing a book such as the one you've written, it kind of puts your personal life out in the public. Now, how did you really feel about that portion of it occurring? Did you have to really think about it a few times before you decided to release that information?
I can't say that I did, because this book that actually came out, this was actually probably the third time that I started writing on this particular book. And once I began writing it, I knew that it was a mandate for me to do it. So I really didn't think about the personal stuff because I had to tell the story. So, and I couldn't leave out that.
Absolutely. I see a picture there on the front cover.
Yes.
Is that a picture of you?
It is.
A lot of change since that time, right?
But yes, sir, that's me when I was about 4 years old.
Wow.
That picture, it means a lot to me because when I took that picture, it was like right after my mom had passed away. And that's when my life changed.
Wow. And a
So
lot of
that
times when we're
represents a lot.
going through things, we tend to reflect back
Mhm,
sometimes to our during a younger period in life,
mhm.
because those were the good times, so to speak, in most people's lives.
In most
but
people's lives.
but in your case, through the book, there are some challenges that you face that are quite I don't want to say disturbing, but really caused a lot of trauma, I would think,
Yes.
in your life. You want to
Yes.
tell us a little bit about some of those things?
A little bit about it. Well, the first thing that happened to me, my mom passed away when I was only 4 years old, and I had 3 younger siblings
Wow.
when she passed away. And I lived with my grandmother and my grandfather while my mom and my dad were living. So when she passed away and my dad got remarried, we moved with him. And so it was like I lost 2 moms,
Wow.
because I was not with my grandmother anymore, who was
Right.
actually raising me. And so when he remarried, and it wasn't like we were welcomed
Wow.
into the other family. He married someone that had 4 children, and my dad had 4 children. So we were automatically um, a family of 8 children,
Wow.
at one time. And it was not a happy childhood, I can
Wow.
tell you that.
And
I went
so,
through.
in an environment like that, when you have two different families that come together, the
Mhm.
family dynamics can change from previous family dynamics simply because now you have some individuals that you have to get to know,
Right,
and they have to get to know you.
right.
Trust has to build on both sides of that, I would think.
Hmm.
And everybody's probably jockeying for attention.
Right.
And so, what were some of the scenarios that came about, from this new family unit?
If I can go back to, I kind of remember the first day that we actually got there. And with children, you kind of try to get along with the children
Right.
when you get together with a new group of children. And I just don't remember it being that way with us. It was always a separation there. When my dad, when we moved in with my dad, he had a mobile home. He and my mother, they had a mobile home of their own. My stepmother and her husband, who had passed away, they had a house. So my dad had the mobile home moved
Wow.
over there, in the backyard up to the back porch of the mobile home.
Wow.
So that's where me and my siblings were, we were put out there to sleep at night. We were able to go in the house and everything during the day and, eat and take a bath. But when it came time to go to bed, we were separated from the family. And so that's just how we kind of grew up. I don't feel that we were ever,
Together.
mm-mm,
Totally.
mm-mm, not from day one.
Wow. And so, even though it was considered a family,
Yeah.
you were yet kind of, separated. You had these kids over here, and you had your sister.
My two
Right.
sisters,
Your two
and then
sisters.
my younger brother.
Wow. And so, you guys, what would you guys talk about? Do you remember any things y'all would talk about in regards to your um, I guess your stepbrothers and sisters?
Um, well, when you grow up like that, you kind of think that's the normal way of how things are supposed to be. At the time, we didn't see anything wrong with it. And we would just, we became imaginary, we became our imaginary friends, I guess. We
Wow.
made up names for each other.
Wow.
And we were just, it was like we were living in a whole nother world, to have some kind of happiness. So, you've heard the story Cinderella. And so we named ourselves the Three Cinderellas.
Wow.
But then we would make up our other names, and I would be the mama and they would be my children, which is kind of like what it kind of was, because I was really taking care of them, basically. And we didn't have a lot of good conversations about, you know, I'm just being honest. We did not, at that time.
Right.
We were mistreated. We were abused,
Wow.
and it just wasn't fun. It just was not a fun childhood.
Now, when you say you were abused, did that abuse come from your stepsisters and brothers, or did that abuse come from directly from other uh, family members or cousins, or was it directly from that association?
Directly from the association. I found out later in my studies that neglect is a form of abuse,
Absolutely.
and we were absolutely, positively neglected.
Wow.
I mean, we were in the mobile home. There was no running water in there. And so if, little children, if you have to go to the restroom in the middle of the night, we had to go outside,
Wow.
even though the house was right there, but we were locked out of the house every night,
Wow.
So
And
abused in that way.
And also, as far as where your housing was located, was this in a rural area or was it in the city? Or
It was in a small town of
Okay.
Glenwood, Georgia. I don't know if you ever heard of it before.
Yes, I've heard of it.
A little small town where everybody knows everybody.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
Right there.
and so I know in one part of the book it talked about you alluded to the Bible as far as Isaiah, when the ravens fed Isaiah, and he brought the ravens would bring
Yeah.
food for him to eat. And you had a similar situation. Tell us about
I
that
did. I
situation.
had a similar situation. So during the summer time, when we were younger, my stepmother would leave food for her children to eat. And this is the absolute truth. She would leave food for them to eat, and me and my sisters, we didn't have anything. So we would either have to wait until, she got home in the afternoon and cook supper to eat. And so this particular summer, this is what I talked about in the book, they were building some apartments behind our house.
Wow.
And so me and my sisters, after the workers would leave, we'd go up there and just find whatever leftovers they had left, the
Wow.
workers had eaten that day. And there was this one particular time, my sister and I, we were, one of my sisters, we were outside, and I saw this dog with a piece of aluminum foil in his mouth. And I told my sister, I said, he's got something in his mouth. So I ran the dog down, and he dropped the aluminum foil. And when I opened it up, there was a red hot link and a slice of light bread in it.
Wow.
And so I ate it. But today, I could not eat one.
Wow.
I
Because
could
you
not
think
eat one.
back,
Right,
and that becomes a trigger,
right,
I would think, for something you had gone through as traumatic as that.
right.
And so, what age were you around that time?
During that time, I probably was I was a teenager. I think I may have been 13, 14, something in between there. I'm not sure of the exact age I was when that happened, but I remember it very clearly.
And so you had to really step up into a leadership role, so to speak, to make certain that your siblings survived
Yes,
and that you survived as well.
yes.
And what do you think attributes to you taking on that responsibility for yourself?
I didn't have a choice, really. I mean, I was just put in that role without a choice. You know, it was either sink or swim. I don't think I even thought twice about it because, in the beginning, I lived with my grandmother. I didn't have anybody to take care of. It was just me and my grandma and my grandpa. And when I got put with them and we were put in that mobile home, they naturally would come to me, for anything that they needed. And so we just kind of grew up like that. So the next 10 years of our life, I was taking care of them,
Wow.
basically.
Now, your father, now, was he every day he was working?
Yes.
He was working. And so, I'm thinking back to my own childhood now, and when dad usually gets home, he usually gets a report on how things have gone, through the day. Did you guys have that similar experience by letting him know, well, hey, Dad, we didn't eat anything today, or Dad, this is what we went through? Was he apathetic or sympathetic to some of the things that you guys told him that had gone through the course of the day?
We didn't have the conversation with him.
Wow.
We didn't have it. And later in my adult years, when I've talked to him about it, he he seemed to be empathetic or sympathetic about it, and he would say he didn't know that was going on. He just assumed, that when that everything was okay. So he says he didn't know, he wasn't aware of it, and we never, we didn't tell him because for us it was normal.
Wow.
It was just a normal way of life
Wow.
for us.
Wow.
So, but he seems to be, sympathetic about it
Right.
when we talk with him about it.
So your siblings, do you guys have, since you wrote the book and
Mhm.
have gone through a lot of the things that you've gone through, has it caused any division between you guys, or have you gone your own separate ways in life, or how has your experiences that happened in writing the book changed any of those circumstances?
With my sisters that we were in the mobile home together, we are like a threefold cord.
Well,
I posted our picture on Facebook yesterday. We were at our favorite place yesterday. We all met there. And we ate there yesterday,
wow.
and it's just. I think that experience that we went through together actually made us closer. Now, as far as my other siblings, we're cordial. The ones that I've seen, some I have not seen in many, many years, but I'm cordial to them. It wasn't always like that, but
Gotcha.
by the grace of God, it is now.
And you made the analogy of, the Cinderella story.
Hmm.
And we do know that in the Cinderella story, there was the wicked stepmother. And
Yes.
so, so did you two experience a lot of disdain type behavior from your stepmother?
I did. I did. Um, and, just like the title of my book, because that's how I felt that I was hated. I didn't do anything, as a little child. Didn't deserve it. Neither did my siblings deserve to be treated the way we were. And so we went into a situation that we never asked to be in because my dad could have left us with my grandmother, which was my mom's mom, and she would have gladly raised us.
Wow.
But he put us in a situation based on his his needs or his it was a selfish thing that he did really, and he knows how I feel about it. So if he happens to see this or it doesn't matter because I've expressed, my feelings to him about it and all, but it was very selfish of him, to put us in that situation and then separate us, from the family. So um we were just I didn't have a good relationship with my stepmother at that time. And today it's not like how I would want it to be. I've never felt that mother-daughter relationship from her, and I'm pretty sure she hasn't felt that from me, either. But I would have loved to have felt as if she was my mom,
Right.
and I would have loved for all of us to have been one big happy family. And people on the outside, even now, they may think that it was like that, but it has never been that way.
Wow.
And it's only going to take God if it's to ever happen. And I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it.
Now, this is for our listening audience. Hopefully, we have some younger people listening. They may or may not be listening, but their parents are listening. Um, how do you think some of the things you had gone through during the time period when you were in school affected your schoolwork? Was there a noticeable difference in how you performed in school, or how your siblings performed in school?
For me, school was my escape. I loved it because I was out of the environment,
Wow.
that I grew up in. So I loved going to school and I used to would ride the school bus extra long. I would get left on the school bus on purpose
Wow.
so that I wouldn't have to go home so quick. But school was my outlet. I believe it or not, I was shy in school, kind of withdrawn, but I was going through things at home that made me that way. And I was an A student
Wow.
in school up until I left home. When I finally left at 15, I did just enough to pass, because I was with my grandmother again and I was loving life. So I wasn't as focused, but so that's one of the positive things.
Wow.
I was a really good student, and I have teachers who have came to my book signings who can attest to, that I was smart. I am smart, but I was smart in
Absolutely.
school.
One other thing, as it relates to your grandmother,
hmm
um, a lot of times it's just like, I'm gonna give the example of someone who's incarcerated.
hmm
You know, when you're incarcerated, you're away from your loved ones, and
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have that communication.
Mhm.
Uh, were you able to convey to your grandmother some of the things that were happening during the time that you were living with your father and your stepmother?
Yes and no. And I say that because even though we lived in the same town as my grandmother, once we moved, we hardly ever saw her.
Wow.
I mean, it was just, she lived like North 19, we lived South 19. The red light is what, separated us, and we hardly ever saw her.
Wow.
And it was sad because I know it hurt her tremendously, to lose her, not only her baby daughter at age 26, and then not have a relationship,
With
with her
grandchildren.
other. she had other grandchildren, but just not, from my mom. Is what I'm saying. And so, but we would go and visit grandma, but not maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I would say, if that. And I remember one time when my stepbrother and his wife were living on the same road, like walking distance to my grandma. I could see my grandmother's house from my stepbrother's house. And I went to go and spend the night over there with my sister-in-law. And my stepmother specifically told me, do not go down there to your grandmother's house. And I could see her house.
Wow.
And I couldn't even go down there to visit her.
Wow.
And that's the truth.
So that was just a part of pretty much mental abuse.
Mental abuse as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you want people to take away from your book when they read it? What is it you really want them to take away from that experience?
That you don't have to become what happened to you. And that you can be the better person. You can be the nicer person if you allow God to come in and heal you. And you don't have to hate because you are hated. And you can love in spite of, not because of. And it took a long time for me to get to that point. It didn't happen overnight. And I just thank God that he chose me, before I was born.
Absolutely.
For a time such as this,
Absolutely.
I didn't know way back then I was going to be writing a book about it, but it has really blessed a lot of people's lives. This book actually came out in 2013, but people would think it was just written, today or yesterday.
Wow.
And it's gone international. And I've gotten so many testimonies from people who went through some of the abuse. And we didn't mention that I was sexually abused as well. So a lot of people have sent me emails, text messages on Facebook about how my book inspired them and has helped them to begin to heal from their past. And I still have a long way to go, but I thank God I'm not where I was.
Exactly.
Where's your book available? I mean, is it still out?
It is, yes, ma'am. It's still out. It's they can actually get them from me directly if they would like them autographed. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart.
Wonderful.
On their websites.
Wonderful. Okay. I've started reading, and I'm going to finish it up because it's some real good reading. And as you mentioned, you allude to a lot of different things in the Bible. And so we see that your faith is taught through the book, and it's through the grace of God that pretty much brought you through a lot of those situations.
Absolutely.
Now, your siblings, how have they fared through this process?
They seem to, everybody has their own way of dealing with it and going through their healing process. And they seem to be, they're not, or they haven't been as vocal about it and open in the public sense, so to speak, as I have. However, my younger sister, she has started writing a book as well, and hopefully and prayerfully it'll be out soon. I don't want to give too much of it away, but I think hers is called A Mental Breakthrough.
Wow.
So I think it's going to be a very powerful, her own testimony.
Wow.
And we all three, have had our way of dealing with it. Mine was through writing,
Have you guys thought about a collaborative effort on putting the book together, or she has just totally written the book from her point of view?
From her point of view.
Okay.
I kind of think of it like the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They all walked with Jesus, but they had their own different point of view. Right. So I think that's how it's going to be, because they both, had their own things that they went through in addition to what I went through as well. And some things that I had no idea about until after my book came out.
Wow.
So even though I was with them the entire time, I didn't know everything that was going on with them either.
Wow. And so
So
so you guys y'all have you had an opportunity to kind of share in some of the experiences and just a sit down healing moment where you guys have actually talked about, different things that you've experienced and then things that they've experienced and kind of coordinated to say, hey, this is what I was faced with, and you didn't know about this, or and they say the same thing, or
I don't think we've had that type conversation because I have been the most vocal one.
oh, okay,
We've talked about my stuff a lot.
gotcha,
And their stuff kind of just came up in the conversation. But as far as what you're talking about, that may be something that we could do.
right,
You know,
right,
that may be something that I could bring up with them because we got a word yesterday at church from my Apostle Ailey Groves. Shout out Crim Ministries, Kingdom Remnant International Ministries. And she gave us a word yesterday about our birthright. Oh, gosh. She
Wow.
said,
wow.
ooh, sorry.
That's okay. There are a lot of. I'm surprised, you could sit up here and really go over a lot of this without becoming emotional because, when I was reading through the book, there were some pretty deep wounds that, that came from your experiences here. And, it's something else for a person to read a book about someone. But if you haven't experienced that hurt, if you haven't experienced um, those situations, you can't really relate to how a person, has to go through that. And I know there's probably been a lot of counseling sessions and therapy that you guys have had to deal with. And I know a big part of that is just the fact of you writing about a lot of these things. And so it can be a very traumatic experience.
It
I,
can be.
and I know we've been pretty calm about it, but we didn't get in depth in the book, and I think that's a good thing. I think people should
You
want
need to read
to
it.
read the book,
Right.
right? To purchase the book and really, get an idea and a feel of some of the hatred that you talk
Better
about.
right.
And as you mentioned, we're talking about the innocence of a child at that at
That's
that
right.
point.
That's right.
And for people to actually put children through
Right.
those kinds
And
of
we didn't
things.
deserve it
Exactly.
at all.
And
Exactly.
how old were you when this started?
When I when I
When
when
you're
my dad remarried,
Uh-huh.
I was 5.
Oh, okay.
hmm
So
Wow.
you
Well,
were the
I turned
oldest.
5,
So you
right.
were the oldest of the.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM.
Hear you.
Your siblings was very small under you. You
Right.
were 5. Oh
Exactly.
my goodness.
Right. And so, as I was saying, we got in church yesterday, and Apostle Groves, she gave us a word about our birthright, and that we three, we're supposed to be in ministry together. So when you brought that up about us collaborating and talking about everything
Right.
that's happened,
Mm-hmm.
that brought that back to me. It's why it made me emotional,
Wow. Yeah.
from the word that we got yesterday. But God
Exactly.
is good.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of healing,
Yes.
that's needed out there. Matter of fact, to our listening audience, if you've experienced something similar, we'd love to hear your story as well. You can give us a call here at the station. The number is 478-250-1444. Once again, you can give us a call at 478-250-1444. We're talking about hated without a cause. We're looking at some of the things that happen that can cause a heart to be hardened.
Right. Exactly.
And it's surprising, it's very surprising in that you guys have gone through such a horrific type of experience and your heart wasn't hard.
By the grace of God.
Absolutely.
Only by the grace of God. And I didn't say that my dad, he is an apostle,
Wow.
and he was my pastor for 32 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I thank him because had I not had that foundation, even though what was going on in the home, he was my dad and he was my pastor as well. I thank him, even though all of the teachings may have not been exactly right, but I still had the word of God to go back to,
Absolutely.
and so for that, I am so thankful
Absolutely.
for that part.
And it's that foundation,
Right.
which, for our listening audience, the foundation of having something to fall on, something to lean on, something to have your confidence in is
That's
very
right.
important. Particularly when you're young. There could have been several things that could have happened. You guys could have ran away from home, ended up in a precarious type situation, and
That's
so
right.
um, staying together through all of that, that cohesiveness, even though it was a very negative environment,
Right.
but you were still able to, stay together.
Right.
And you talk about this book is not about hatred, but it's about the opposite of that. It's about love, how you can love even
In
through,
spite of.
in spite of a situation like that.
Right. And forgive. You
Absolutely.
have to forgive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come and share your story with us.
Thank you.
And what do you want to tell our listening audience about the book, how they can obtain it, um, if they need to contact you for speaking engagements and those kinds of things? Just let them know how they can do that.
Excuse me. Apologize you all for being emotional. I couldn't help it.
No problem.
As I stated earlier in my book, if you want an autographed copy directly from me, you can call me, and my number is 478-841-0959. That's 478-841-0959. If you don't care about it being autographed, it's available on Amazon website, Barnes and Noble's website, and also Walmart website.
Absolutely. I was just seeing some of the endorsements here in the book. One of them says, once I started reading this book, I couldn't put it down. Um, and this one here says, you just see my glory, but you don't know my story. We must understand in life, everyone that is experiencing God's glory has a story to be told. Don't be ashamed to tell your story. It might save someone else's life. And that is so true. There are a lot of things that people are faced with. A lot of our young people uh, are faced with many things and many challenges, and a lot of them are reverting to suicide and those kind of things. And so
Yes.
this is a way, this gives them a route to go in a positive way
Right.
and not resorting to those
That's right.
kinds of things.
There are a lot of positive comments in the
Oh,
column here.
Yeah, let me
Yeah,
read a
can you
couple
see
of
'em?
those.
Yeah.
Here's one. It says, love and blessings to you and your siblings.
thank you.
And one says, we love you, sis. That's from,
Love you too.
you see who that's from.
Yes.
So,
Uh-huh.
and one of the other ones says, writing an autobiography was probably therapeutic. And then there's another one saying, blessings, Sister Diana. Your testimony has the power to set others free. Be encouraged. You are an overcomer. And then I think the other one here says, what a story. Did
Wow.
you and your siblings get professional counseling? And I guess that's a question.
I've gone through several different types of counseling. I don't know that my sisters have had the counseling yet. I don't know that they have.
And that may be something that you guys have to, later work on as you
Right.
as you grow and develop.
Right.
It's funny. Life is a journey.
It is.
And we get to certain stages and we see things that we probably didn't see in the first stage of life, and we begin to see a little clear, as life progresses. But we certainly applaud you for your courage and your inspiration to write on this book. And we thank you for your dedication and your motivation to motivate others to be able to deal with situations they may face that are similar.
Yes, sir.
And we certainly thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for
And we
having
hope
me.
maybe later we can get you back on the show.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
that counseling will help that collaboration
Ab-
for them to put their book
Exactly.
together.
Exactly. And then we can have all
All
you
three
guys
of
on.
us.
That's right, and talk about it.
Yeah.
So at this time, we're going to get into some NAACP stuff, and so,
Okay.
but we thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
For all our listening audience out there, you know that the NAACP, one of our main objectives is to make sure that people get out and vote. We want to make sure that you're registered to vote, and of course, this weekend's event that with the concert, um, Sister Maria is going to tell you a little bit about what you can do, how much time you have to do it, what you need to look for in your ballots, to kind of also some of the things you need to make sure are in place before you cast your vote. So, uh, Maria, go ahead and give them some of that info.
First thing everybody needs to do is make sure that they are registered. The last day to register to vote for the November the 8th election is October the 11th. So please make sure you're registered. If you're not sure, if you haven't voted in a while, go to the MVP page and check out your voter registration to make sure you're registered, because you don't want to get to the poll and be surprised and find out that you aren't registered to vote.
Right.
So October the 11th is the last day. Now, if you want to do an absentee ballot, October the 28th is the last day you can submit that absentee ballot. So you can do mail-in ballots. A lot of people, if you're working, if you have the kind of jobs where you're not sure whether you're going to be off, we don't know what the weather's going to be like that day, you need to go ahead and do your absentee ballot so they can send the ballot to you wherever you are. If you're going to be out of town, they can mail it to you so you'll be able to vote. And then we're also encouraging people to vote early.
Absolutely.
Early voting starts October the 17th. So we're encouraging people to early vote. We want as many people to show up the first day at the poll as possible. So show up and early vote. And if you do wait till election day, just remember, you can only vote in your assigned precinct. And if you are outside of your precinct, you cannot vote in another precinct till after 5 o'clock. So what we want you to do is go online, check your status. Also, it will let you know what districts and what districts that you're in. So when you go to the poll and you think, well, I let so and so put his yard sign in my yard. Well, that person may not be in your district,
Right.
so you're not able to vote for them. So it's not that they didn't have it on there. It's just that they changed the districts, and a lot of people are not voting for some of the district people that they thought they were. Also, as a reminder, there is the special election for District 2 of the Macon Water Authority. There are 5 candidates running. So there that day on that ballot also for people in District 2 only. They won't be on everybody's ballot. So it's only the people in District 2, and those 5 people are running for the Macon Water Authority. So if they're not on your ballot, that means you're not in District 2. And also, there are 4 amendments on the ballot, and we need to look at those amendments. And we need to vote the entire ticket, vote the entire ballot, vote all the way down. Don't just start at the top and do top couple of people. We need to vote the entire ticket. That way, we're for sure what we're doing. We need to vote the entire ballot, and then also just remember, like I said, there are people who have to do absentees. Now, the new difference in the absentee forms this time is you must put your driver's license or your if you have ID, a voting ID, you have to have that on your absentee ballot in order to register for your absentee ballot. So you need to make sure you do that. That's a new thing on the absentee ballot. So you have to put that on there. It will be your driver's license number or your ID number on that form in order to send in to get your absentee ballot. So, and then also, if you're a senior and you really want to go to the poll, you can always ask if you're a senior or disabled. ask to be sent to the front of the line so you can you don't have to stand in the long lines. But we're hoping a lot of people just do the absentees and vote early. Now let me give you the dates, so I want to make sure you put it down. Now October the 11th is the deadline for voter registration. Early voting starts October the 17th. Okay, there's two Saturday votings, October the 22nd and October the 29th. And the hours for the early voting, the times for the early voting is the Saturday votings, Monday through Friday for early voting, which starts October the 17th, is from 8:30 to 5:30. And there's three locations. You can do it at the Board of Elections, the Elaine Lucas Center, and the Theron Urshery Center. Those are the three locations for early voting only, early voting. If you wait until election day, you will have to go to your assigned precinct. So pull up your card and it will give you your assigned precinct before. So when you go, as I reminded you, you cannot vote outside of your precinct until 5 o'clock on election day. And election day is from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. Also, there is one Sunday voting, and that one Sunday voting will be at the Pine Honor office of the Board of Election, and it's from 1 to 5 only. That's the only day for Sunday voting, and it's at the main office only on that 2525 Pine Honor Avenue, which is across from Krispy Kreme. On a Sunday, that's the only day you can do the Sunday voting from 1 to 5.
Is that the 23rd
The
or the
23rd,
30th?
the
Correct.
23rd, 23rd. It's the only day for Sunday voting. October the 22nd and the 29th is Saturday voting. And the Saturday voting is from 9 a.m. until 5 o'clock p.m. So just remember that. But the Sunday voting is the only one, and it will be at the main Board of Elections from 1 to 5. Also, the sample ballots are available at the Board of Elections. So if you want to go out and get your sample ballot, so you can go ahead and fill in what you want to do when you get there. And just as a reminder, you can take this in with you, so so you'll know what you need to do. But the sample ballots are available, and they have everybody on there. And then there's also another sample ballot just for the people in District 2 for the Water Authority. So we just need everybody to make sure, like I said, those important dates you need to remember. October the 11th is the last day you can register to vote. So please make sure you register to vote.
And Maria, while we have the chance, I want to read some of these amendments, proposed constitutional amendments,
There are
because
four.
I think a lot of times when people start voting, they haven't taken the time to look over these.
That's why you need to go, and you can pull up your sample ballot online. Also, if you go in and put in your information in the My Voter page, you just put in your first initial, your last name, the county you registered in, your birth date. And if you pull it up, it will give you a sample ballot. And on that sample ballot that you pull up for yourself, it lets you know what district you in. So, so the people on your ballot, on your sample ballot, are the people that you can vote for in your district. But the one at the Board of Election has everyone on it. But it does have the amendments on it. And,
Right. I just want to read
the
this
amendments. There are four.
this one right here that says provides for the suspension of compensation of certain state officers and members of the General Assembly. Senate Resolution number 134, Resolution Act number 304. Shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended so as to suspend the compensation of governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, state school superintendent, commissioner of insurance, commissioner of agriculture, commissioner of labor, or any member of the General Assembly while such individual is suspended from office during indictment for a felony. And so they've got to vote yes or no
Right.
on that particular amendment. And then there's another one that provides for temporary local tax relief after the disasters, I guess, such as the hurricane. It says House Resolution number 594, Resolution Act number 803. Shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended so as to provide that the governing authority of each county, municipality, and consolidated government and the Board of Education of each independent and county school system in the state shall be authorized to grant temporary tax relief to properties within its jurisdiction which are severely damaged or destroyed as a result of a disaster and located within a nationally declared disaster area. So they'll vote yes or no on that one. The other one is a question. It's a statewide referendum question. It provides for an ad valorem tax exemption for certain timber production, reforestation, and harvesting equipment. House Bill number 997, and the act number is 859. Shall the act be approved, which grants a statewide exemption from all ad valorem taxes for certain equipment used by timber producers in the production and harvest of timber? And that's a yes or no answer for that one. And the last one is expands the ad valorem tax exemption for family owned farms and adds qualified products to the exemption. House Bill number 498 and Act number 260 says, shall the act be approved, which expands a statewide exemption from ad valorem taxes for agriculture equipment and other farm products held by certain entities to include entities comprising two or more family-owned farm entities, in which adds dairy products and unfertilized eggs of poultry as qualified farm products with respect to such exemption? That's a yes or no on that one. So a lot to chew on when you're going in to vote, and just make sure you're prepared prior to going in, and you should have a better experience in voting. Also, we always try to monitor, how the voting process is taking place.
Right.
And I noticed on the last voting cycle that a lot of the machines, the ones that they had, first of all, they didn't have enough machines, I felt, for people to vote. Some precincts only had two machines. And then if the machine was working, the cards weren't working. So, if you're having an issue, you do want to make sure that you report those issues that you're having as it relates to voting.
And report them before you leave the polling place.
Absolutely.
Right. Report them before you leave the polling place so they'll know what's going on. And also, as a reminder, this year with the House Bill 202, where they changed a lot of the, not House Bill, but the 202, when they changed the laws, you can't give people water in line, and you can't do anything. But if they're 150 feet away or before they getting ready in there, you're not allowed to talk to people, discuss anything with them. And there's a lot of where they changed a lot of the laws. So you just need to remember to be careful when you go and get in line, or what you can and cannot do.
Absolutely. And God forbid that it rains on election day. I know sometimes people tend to use the rain as an excuse not to get out and vote.
Right.
But this is a crucial.
Well, that's why we need to early vote. I mean, look at how many you've got all of these days to early vote. You have from the 17th until November the 4th to early vote. So, and then plus you have 2 Saturdays and a Sunday.
Exactly.
So I know a lot of people say at work, well, if you work and if you're one of those people that travel, then you need to do an absentee. And then that'll take care of making sure you get to vote. Or if you have to travel, if you can't be. And another thing I need to remind people is, if you're in the hospital, you can request a ballot and they will bring one to the hospital for you if you wind up in the hospital on election day. But you need to call that morning and have them to bring a ballot to the hospital so you will be able to vote, because they can do that. They will do that. So, and just remember, and like I said, if you're an elderly person, you're in line, request, you don't have to stand in that long line, so you
get
can
some
go
assistance.
Get some assistance so you can go and vote.
We have a question. How many times, if you don't vote before you're purged from the roster? Is it 2?
It's 2. Okay, the major elections, if you haven't, let's see.
I think it's
If you haven't voted in the last, if you haven't voted, it depends upon the elections. I need to double check on that one, but I thought it was 4.
And that is a concern, being
Yeah, because we
purged.
do have, yeah, and they are purging people from the list. If you have not voted in a while, and if you tell us you haven't voted since the last president election before then, you are purged.
Right.
So we need to make sure. That's why I said if you go to the MVP page, it will let you know whether you're registered, whether you're still in there, and it will let you know whether you're active voter, inactive voter, or whatever. So you need to go in on there and pull it up. It's the sos.ga.gov. Go into that website. Go to the one that says the SO, or else you can go to the My VP page, and it will let you know. And like I said, all you do is put in your first initial, your last name, your county, and your birth date. Click on submit, and it will let you know. And if nothing comes up, that means you aren't registered.
Absolutely.
So you need to make sure you put that information. And also, if you've moved since the last election, you need to go in and make the changes so you'll be in the correct district. And if you got married, divorced, and changed your name, you need to go in there and redo your application so you make sure that you're in the correct spot because your driver's license needs to match. So your IDs are matched, and you need to have a pictured ID. And if you do not have a pictured ID, you can go to the Board of Election and they will give you a pictured ID for voting purposes only. You can also get ID and it's free of charge, and you can get one at the Driver's License Bureau for voting purposes only, and it's free.
And we would encourage individuals, particularly that have gotten married,
To make sure you do that name change.
Yes.
Because if you've changed your driver's license, then that means your voting won't match.
Right.
So whatever you change your driver's license to, you need to make sure you go in and re-register under the new name. And also, if you move, you need to make sure, because if you move, you got to go to your old polling place, and it may be someone that you want to vote for in your new polling place. You're not going to be able to vote for them because it's based on your address.
Right.
So,
be out of
and
the
like
district.
those people who are in District 2 with the Water Authority, you need to make sure you voted in the registered in the correct district, or you will not be able to vote for those people that you want to vote for. So,
Absolutely.
just make sure, everybody check your status. Make sure you go online and check to know where you are.
And also, coming up this month, the NAACP will be having our
Freedom Fund
banquet. And so,
and it's October the 22nd. It's virtually online at 6, and it's it's our 50th.
right.
It's the 50th
50th anniversary.
Earl T. Shinholster, and the tickets are $45 for that, and which will give you a meal with we'll give you a card, and all you have to do is go pick up your meal. And the meal includes it's a dinner with dessert and drinks. So please support. It's our main fundraiser. It's one of our main fundraisers, and there's a lot of things we have to do in the community, and we do need some funds to do that.
Absolutely.
When you call our office, in order for us to pay our phone bill and do everything we need to do, we need some funds. So we ask people if they would donate the $45 for us. It's the it's my main fundraiser. So if anybody wants to do an ad or whatever, you still have a chance to do an ad for the ads of $100 and $50. So if you'd like to do one, you can call me call our office at 478-745-9944. And we'll take care of it for you.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks to our special guest, Diane Knox Cooper. Until next time, Willie Dumas, your host at the NAACP Truth Show. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett Westbrook and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.